I had to leave it, though now I grieve it. Deep in the Arctic, that's where I parked it. It was tired and it was cold. It could not pull the sled. I'm slightly mad and very sad that now my pet is dead. Some people say that I was cruel to use a dormouse as a mule. Some people thought it most unkind, especially as my pet was blind. But through the snowstorms, over mountains, it tried to haul my gear. Over chasms, through the blizzards, until the pole was near. Then the sled got caught in ice, tried to wrench it free, and, although I fed it bits of rice, it broke its back. Then it had a heart attack, then it died on me. Where my small mouse died, I have placed a tiny cross. It is made from ice, and on the side I have written of my loss. You were brave, you were bold, and you were very strong. You were small and very cold, but good to have along. Next time you go exploring, searching for the pole, you could try an otter, a wombat, or a mole. There is a shrew in Timbuktu that is good at pulling tents. I recommend this shrew to you. I think a shrew makes sense. But I had to park it, so take my advice. Deep in the Arctic, never use mice. The day the thub arrived to put us off our grub, oi, it were horrid it were, long and cold and wet, and slime came from its eyes. Mother had a fit, she did, hit it with a stick she did. When I laughed she hit me too, ooh, it were horrid. Now, had we come from London town, or lived somewhere in Birmingham, we'd have called the vet or police, and had the thub put down, but we had to put it up, of course. Our hospitality's none the worse for being country folk. Mother said we'd put it in with you. You were just a baby. I said 'twould bloomin' eat you up. Mother just said, maybe. It grew and grew those first few years, and notwithstanding our worst fears, became what you might call friendly-like, but it was still horrid. It used to curl around, slap its fishy tail, and leave a trail behind it like it were a snail. Oi, it were horrid. It frightened our friends, ate all our food, never tried to make amends, were continually rude. Mother decided one Christmas day we couldn't have it stay no more. Everywhere you looked, you see, you saw piles and piles of gore deposited, as was its habit, by the horrid thub. So we washed it down one last time, told it be polite, gave its back a substantial scrub, and watched it out of sight. Down the lane it went, out into the world to do the best it could. Out into the road, trying to get a lift, we thought, but didn't think it would. I have to admit we missed that horrid thub a bit. Where would it go, out in the snow, lonely, lost and mad? Would it smell of dead squid, which was what it did, when it were feeling sad? It wasn't polite, and we thought that it might have a problem in the city. It lived on old junk and stunk like a skunk, and townsfolk have little pity. Gang heaven. When you're refused, you've got nothing to lose, you're a long time dead, but I know you've always been handy. Make your move when he shakes his head. Claim that you're Gandhi or someone good. Say you love the Saviour. Use a left hook, dive under his wing. Grab the book and burn the thing. That would do us all a favour. St. Peter stands at heaven's gate. You can pass him if you hustle. Try threats and bribes, and if that don't work, apply a little muscle. To mystify the ostrich. To mystify the ostrich, the men put feathers in their hair. Waving sticks in the air, they dance around and shout, and when they see an ostrich, they scream and jump about. This is a trick hunters use in this arid land. It is one of those little-known facts. An ostrich, when confused, will bury its feet in the sand. Then it just stands there, looking bemused as they hit that big bird with an axe. Slugs are sticky, but a cheetah doesn't stick. That's why in every race you see the cheetah wins. It's quick, but the poor old snails and slugs always come in last. This is because they're really stuck and can't move very fast. Anxious ants. Anxious ants are angsty ants. For anxious, angsty ants, little things can get them down. When the queen gets depressed, the nest is a mess and all the ants just lie around. What it would choose. Front, back, left, right, middle upper left, middle upper right, middle lower left and middle lower right. That is what a spider would choose when buying shoes. The sound of the cricket. A cricket makes a sound like this. Chirrup, chirrup, chirrup. If that noise annoys you, drop it in some syrup. Now the noise that it will make is squidge, 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 squidge. If that noise annoys you, put it in the fridge. Now the noise the cricket makes is clung, 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 clung. If that noise annoys you, then shoot it with a gun. If you haven't got a gun, use a hammer or a tool, and if you miss and hit your thumb, it serves you right for being so cruel. Your frog is quite hoppy today, I observed to the Duke on his cow. When I was a boy and he was a youth, he used to enjoy vintage vermouth. Now he gets frisky on single malt whisky, said the old man with a bow. I lifted my hat to the old aristocrat. Indeed, sir, regarding your frog, my daughter, Princess Alice, I started to say. The one who is ugly and nasty and smells like a dog. Well, I wouldn't put it that way, I replied with a wince. If you brought your frog to the palace and she kissed it, do you think it might turn into a prince? It is her only hope of a suitable suitor, of receiving a wedding ring. Don't risk it, just shoot her, he replied with a bellow and swung the frog round on its string. Would a cow lower its nose to lower its lows, do you suppose, or is this just my delusion? Could a duck, when inspired, enliven a choir, or is this just another illusion? His voice faded out in confusion. A cow can low a low low, there is no question at all this is so, and a duck, when on fire, could warm the hands of a priest. I agreed, to humour the fellow. Ducks collect quacks. They keep them in their beaks. They can keep them there for weeks, he suddenly screamed in a rage. Little ducks collect cheeks. This is how a duck speaks. He rocked back and forth on his cow and banged the sides of his cage. My cow, O king, you have noticed, is supported by peasants. I have taught the peasants to dance. I have taught them to spin. The cow goes into a trance. I can tell by his lows that he knows the future is grim. Cannonballs can damage cattle. They certainly damaged him. It was in the battle for the fort, the first assault. He lost one leg. It wasn't his fault. His legs had lessened, but not his courage. The second charge was pathetic. We were mowed down. He lost another leg. His prognosis was dim. The third charge was useless. He lost another limb. I don't know how on a one-legged cow we thought that we could win. But our duty was to do or die. We dived into the moat. A cow is not a water dweller. It couldn't swim. It didn't float. But the tail of the cow is an excellent propeller. Submerged, we headed for the fort. The outlook wasn't good at all. Boiling oil fried his last leg. His bravery was enough for two. We had a soggy barbecue. Fortified, we scaled the castle wall. On a cow with no legs, this took longer than we thought. The cow was badly grazed. The enemy was amazed. We won the day, O king. The cow I thought worth saving. He made the rustics turn the beast. I watched its tail waving. Lord Granger slowly stood on his head and cried, "It's misbehaving, it's starting again." He screamed and grabbed the cow's ears. The duck is not the quack is not the duck. I have preached this for years. The people resisted. Consider this. He pulled something out from his breeches. They kept it in quarantine. It wasn't clean. They had it tested. It was infested. It screeches. It is crawling with lice. It bites. It isn't nice. Some people say it is lucky to wear it standing on your head on the top of a runaway train fighting a giant raven with a lollipop on a stick. But I say those people are sick. The firmament has fluxed. Do I really own these ducks? I'm feeling much too liverish. His voice trailed off into gibberish. That man is insane, I said to my guard. Indeed, sire, completely out of his brain. But you should see his brother. He is really something other. We keep him underground, he added with a shudder. Your frog, I insisted, addressing the Duke, who was swinging the frog in figures of 8. If Princess Alice kicked it, might it turn into a knight? He let out a loud belch and bounced the frog on the ground with a loud squelching sound. It will make a fine prince, that's my belief, he barked. He swung the leash in an arc and caught the frog in his teeth. We will try, yelled the demented Lord Granger. I don't let myself out if there are people about. I attack for no reason. I like a firefight. I use heavy weapons. I'll come at midnight. Please alert your guard to the danger. An otter in the desert would be hotter than a skink. It would stink. To de-wax an otter is a sin. Without any earwax the sand can get in. Earwax for an otter is essential. This is elemental. Nomads believe they can use it to keep their skin young under the burning desert sun. They say it would protect them from harm, soothe their burning lips, and softens up the fingertips. But otters live on rivers or, sometimes, in a lake. They're not in the desert. The nomads have made a mistake. This is a sad lesson they've learned, those nomads all wrinkled and burned. They look incredibly old and their skin is like leather. The weather is hotter than flesh can withstand, and they can't find an otter in this desert land.